Hello Poshi family, you're all welcome back to my channel. So in today's tutorial, we are going to be learning how to make this beautiful button shirt, okay, with collar. So that is what we'll be learning how to make today, and this shirt is unisex, and that implies that both um male or female can wear this, as in it can be worn by male or female. So the first thing you're going to do is to get the length of the fabric you're working with. Okay, so I have 31 inches here. My actual length is 30, but I'm adding extra 1 inch for hemming allowance. Then you are going to divide your hip circumference by 4 and add up to 4 inches allowance, or 3.5. Then after which you are going to fold in 2 inches on this folded part like this and secure with your pin or iron down. So that is what I did. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to place my tape on my shoulder line and mark my waist. Okay, so that is what I did here. I placed my tape on the shoulder line and mark my waist. And the next thing I'm going to do is to take the measurement of my shoulder to shoulder divided by 2. So take note of the fact that when you are making a shirt, you're going to give an ease allowance to your shoulder divided by 2. Okay, you're not going to make it very close to the neck. You're going to give some freeness to it. So what I did is that I marked that shoulder divided by 2 on the shoulder line and on the chest line. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to measure down 1.5 inches here. Now remember, you're measuring this 1.5 inches before you cut out your shoulder divided by 2. You're going to measure it towards the end of the folded fabric. Then you mark your neck depth. Neck width. So the next width I use is 3 inches. That is what I marked, and I connected to the 1.5 inches to form the shoulder slope. Okay, so note that this shirt, the method I'm using to cut the shirt is the reason why it can be worn by both male and female. Okay, so this method is mostly used when making a male shirt. Okay, so after cutting out the shoulder slope, I set that one aside, and the next thing I'm going to do now is for us to draft our front part. That is what we're going to be doing. So to place this one on top like this, and the back part, that is the new fabric that is on the table, is 3 inches longer than the front part that we initially worked on. Okay, so the back part is longer by 3 inches than the front part, and that is what you notice here. Okay, so if you sew men clothes and use this method to sew your shirt, is very perfect. Then for women shirt as well, can use this method, or use the second method. Okay, the regular method that most people use. So what I'm going to do now is to drag this one that I sloped the shoulder. I will drag it up to be the same length with the other one, and I'll get the shoulder slope on the other one as well, that is on the back part. Then I'll drag it down back, okay, so that I have the 3 inches different on the upper part. And I'm going to overlap the back part to the front part. Okay, I'm going to overlap the front part to the back part. The back part, that is the longest part, to the short part, that is the front part, and I'm going to secure with my pins. Okay, so this is how we are going to work on it. So measuring is, you notice that I still have my exact shoulder to shoulder divided by 2, which I mark on my chest line, and which is 9.5. The reason is because the 1.5 inches I remove from my shoulder slope is the same 1.5 inches that I had on the upper part, because I folded in 3 inches, like I folded in 3 inches by 2, giving me 1.5 inches. So I marked my neck width on the back part as well, which is overlapping the front. Then what I'm doing now is to mark my chest measurement, that is bust point line, as in bust circumference divided by 4. That is what I'm marking, and I'm going to place this tape like this and get the midpoint of the armhole. Then I'm just going to curve out I'm curving out as if I went in by 0.5 inches here. Okay, so curve it in a way the way they normally curve in, as in put your hand inside to get 0.5 inches. Okay, so you can also use your ruler to do that, your curve ruler. So I'm going to measuring 1.5 inches down on the front part. You notice that I raised the back part up, right? So on the front part I measured and marked 1.5 inches, and I'm going to form my neckline. Okay, then after which I'm going to place the back part on top of its back. Now remember, we had already measured the neck depth for the neck width for the back part, which is 3 inches. So I'm just going to make a curve around there like this. See the way I cover that part, just like this. Okay, that is how you cover, as if you are trying to make a C at that point where you measure your neck width. Now I am going to mark my waist circumference divided by 4 on the waistline. Please remember to add ease allowance, because you know a shirt is not supposed to be very fitted. Then here I mark my hip circumference divided by 4, and I mark as well. The same thing is what I'm marking on the hem. Okay, and this is the shape we have after connecting. So what I'm going to do now is to add my ease allowance. So you can add ease allowance of 2 inches, 1.5 inches, or 2.5 inches. It depends on how much allowance you love adding on your outfits. All right, so I proceeded to add mine, and I'm just going to connect like this. You see the way I'm connecting it. Okay, so that is what I just did now, and it's time to cut out. Okay, so I'm going to pick up my scissors now, and we are going to cut out what we just drafted. Now to cut out, the first thing I'm going to do is to cut out this back part that is overlapping the front part like this. So take note of the way I am cutting it out. Okay, so I cut out the back neckline. Okay, that is just what I remove now. Now it's time to cut out the front neckline, and I'm just going to, as in, a kind of raise it up like this and cut out, so that I don't cut out the front and back together, because that will ruin the shirt. So I proceeded to cut out the neckline, and I'm just going to cut out the armhole. Now I remember that when we were marking the armhole, we came in by 0.25, the normal way we draft our basic armhole. And remember that applies only to the front. The coming in, the curve on the midpoint of the armhole is only applicable to the front. It doesn't apply to the back. Okay, so if you are conversant with drafting a basic body, you should know what I am talking about here. Okay, so I proceeded to cut out the back armhole and the front armhole separately. Okay, and this is what I have. So I'm going to continue cutting out, and once I'm done, we are going to move to the next step. Okay, so if you are new here, my name is Merci, and this is Merci Posh Stitches. So on this channel I share sewing tutorial DIY. I teach how to cut, sew, and neatly finish outfits. Okay, so that is what I teach here, and my tutorials are very simple and easy to understand. They are very beginner friendly. Okay, so if you're coming across my channel for the first time, you are in the right place, and if you're a returning subscriber, you are well appreciated and always welcome. Okay, so I'm going to slit inch through those parts, which is on the front part. That is what you see me do, and I'm going to remove all my pins and open it up for us to see what we have. Okay, so the 2 inches we set aside on the center front is for our button allowance. Take note of that. Okay, so this is what it looked like after I open it up. This is what it looked like. Okay, so I'm just trying to open it up so that you see the full look of what it is, and I'll fold it back, and it will be time for us to measure and cut out the sleeve. Okay, so everything about this tutorial, it has to do with cutting and sewing a button shirt from the beginning to the end. Like, I did not leave any stone unturned on this tutorial. Okay, I didn't leave any stone unturned. I taught everything, and you don't have to be scared of whether you'll be able to make a shirt or not. This tutorial is just what you need. Okay, so I measured what I have on the armhole, and it's time to cut out the sleeve. So I'm going to get another fabric, and that is what I have on my table, and we're going to be using to cut out our sleeve. So it is folded into two, and I have two pieces of it. Okay, two pieces of this fabric that is folded into two. Okay, so I have my length and my wideness as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to set aside 1 inch, which I'll be using to hem the down part of the sleeve. So after setting aside the 1 inch, I came down on the upper part of the sleeve by 4 inches. Okay, so I'm just going to use my ruler to curve it out this way, and after doing that, I'm going to just measure what I have on that line, and I'll divide it into two. Okay, like this, and I'm just going to make a curve like this using my free hand, because to me cutting a sleeve is not difficult at all. Like, it's very super easy. Like, it's one of the easiest things to do, to me, or in making an outfit. It's just one of those easiest things. Okay, so after I curve out, I tried to measure it to ensure that I have exactly what the same thing as what is in the armhole that we measured, on the armhole that we measured initially. And once I was satisfied with what I have, I proceeded to get my biceps, which is the round sleeve divided by 2, and I went on to cut out. Okay, so after cutting out, we are going to get ready to start joining them. Okay, so I'll just notch the midpoint of my sleeve like this, and it's time to sew the shirt. So here I am on my machine, and I'm going to fold in about half of an inch or quarter of an inch, depending on what you would like to use, and I'm going to fold it in. So that is what I just did. And after folding it in, I went on to iron my remaining 1.75. So I actually made a one-time fold with quarter of an inch, then after which I folded 1.5 which is 1.75. So what I'm going to do is to divide that 1.75 into two like this, and I'm going to run a stitch on top. Okay, so I'm trying to create our button allowance. Okay, that is to sew it and stitch it neatly, our button allowance. So after I was done doing that on both sides, I joined the two shoulders and also top stitch on the shoulder. Okay, I joined the shoulder of the front and the back together, and I top stitch. Now the next thing we are going to do here is to attach our sleeve. Okay, is to attach the sleeve to it. Okay, so I'm going to attach my sleeve, and that is what I'm going to do. So I decided to show you what you are going to do before you attach your sleeve. Now you're going to make sure that you arrange this out shirt like this, and you're going to notch the midpoint of the shoulder, because you notice that the shoulder where we have joining, as it came down. It's not on the upper part of the shoulder. It came down, it dropped. So that is why you are going to make that notch, and that place where you make that notch is where you're going to place the center part of your sleeve. So that is what I did, and attach my sleeve, and that is what we'll have here. So what I'm going to do is to measure where I'll attach my pocket, and I marked from my shoulder to my chest line, that is my shoulder to about 7.5 inches. Yes, that's what I measured from my shoulder to my 7.5 to 7.5 inches. I measured and marked, and from the button allowance side, I measured and marked about 2.75. Okay, then I'm going to be placing my pockets here, and I'm going to stitch it down. So I believe all of us know how to cut pocket. It's not easy. Just make a square and curve it out the way you want, and add stay or gum stay to it and attach. So that is what I did, and I was done attaching it, and I also attached my sleeve and closed the sides. Okay, so these are the things I did, and that is what you should do as well. That is the similar procedure you can use. So after, when I attached when I sewed the side, I left about 7 inches below because I wanted to have opening on both sides. Okay, and I proceeded to hem the opening. That is, I'm going to hem the opening, and you can see, so this 7 inches, 1 inch is for my hemming allowance and 6 inches is the opening. And like I said, I proceeded to hem the opening, okay, the opening on both sides, and I also hem the down part of my shirt. So now it's time for us to cut out our collar. So note that I also hem my sleeve before I attach it. So I measured what I have on my neckline, and I have about 9.5 inches. So now it's time for me to cut out the collar. So if you have been struggling to cut out a shirt collar, please pay attention to what I'm doing, and you will, understand perfectly how to do that. So what I'm going to do now is to measure about 9.75. So note that you're cutting directly on your main fabric, which is what you see me do. So you're going to add your allowance to it, join allowance. So on the down part of my collar, I'm measuring 1.75. Okay, so it all depends on how wide you want it to be. If you want it very wide, you can go on and use 2 inches. But mine, I don't normally like it very wide. I love it very portable. So I measured 1.75, and from that part I'll measure 2.75. Is that almost 3 inches? 2.75. That is what I'm measuring, and that is the height I want for the upper part of the collar. That is the other upper part. Okay, and I proceeded to mark as well. So while measuring both your the horizontal and the vertical, remember to add your allowance for joining. So coming in by 1 inch is here. 1 inch, I made a curve like this. That curve you normally see on your collar, that is the curve I made. Then I'm connecting this place now to to it. Now I'm going to connect this part to the 1 inch I came in. I hope you're following. So I connected it to 1 inch, to that 1 inch on the down part of the collar, and that is why you see it looking curvy. Then on the folded part of the collar, of the upper part, I came down by just 1/4 inch and connected like this. That is this point, just 1/4 inch. Why this one is pointed, the other part is reduced in size. Okay, and this is just what we need for the collar. Okay, so I'm going to cut out, and I will just show you the next thing we are going to do after cutting out. Okay, so remember, though, we need 2 pieces of each of this collar. Okay, we need 2 pieces for each of it. So that implies I'm going to be cutting out another 2 of just what we have here. Okay, so that is what I am going to do, and after that it will be time for us to add our collar gum to it. So you can use collar gum. If you don't have collar gum, you can use your hard stay, that is hard gum, or you can even double it. Okay, so sometimes when I don't have collar gum, I usually double my hard gum to it to make the collar stand very well. So right now I am cutting out the second part of the collar because we need another one as lining piece. Okay, so one will serve as lining piece while one is the main fabric. So that is what you see me doing now, and after cutting out, it will be time for us to start sewing it. Okay, so I proceeded to gum my hard gum. So I actually gummed it on both sides, both the lining piece and the main fabric, so that this fabric stretches so that one will not stretch and become longer than one. So what I'm going to do is on the upper part of the collar, I went on to turn it using one to turn as lining piece, and this is what we have. Then on this down part now, I'm going to place it like this, and I'm going to sew like this and stop on this part where we measured 1 inch, and I'm going to repeat the same thing on this side, sew and stop somewhere on this upper part. Okay, so I'm just going to do that, and after which I'll show you what we have. So you notice that the small collar, that is the down part, I place it on the other part, and then I place the other one on top of it as I was joining, and I went on to join all of them. That is the part I didn't turn, the part of the upper collar that I didn't turn. Okay, that is what I did, and I sewed and I turned it inside out, and this is what we have. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to go and hem in 1/4 inch, and on just one side, 1/4 inch like this, and it will be time for us to start joining after doing that. Okay, so I will also fold it into two like this and notch the center point. I will notch the center point, and after doing that, it will be time for us to join. Okay, so I went on to make my 1/4 inch fold, and I'm going to bring my main shirt. I'll fold it into like this and notch the center back. Okay, the center back neck, I will place a notch like this. So that is what I just did, and I'm going to match up the center back neck. Okay, so I'll go on and match it up like this, and I'm going to secure my pins. Okay, so I will continue to secure my pins until I get to this point. Okay, this point like this where joining and joining meet themselves, I will secure as well. Okay, so please pay attention as I'm doing this thing to what I'm doing, so that you will be carried along, especially if you're not conversant with what I'm doing here. So ensure that you secure with your pins so that it will be very easy for you to sew. Okay, so I'm going to sew like this down, and I'll show you what we have after sewing it. Okay, so I was done stitching it, as you can see, and the next thing is this part where I folded in 1/4 inch. I'm going to use it now to place on top of the other part of the neckline. I'll still secure with my pin, and I will also sew it again. Okay, so I'm just going to sew it, make sure I push this one inside like this, so that it can be very, as in it will come out very neat and well finished. So I'm going to go ahead and sew it, and I'll show you what we have. Okay, so I was done sewing, and this is what we have. I run a stitch on top of it neatly, that is, I stitch it down neatly, and this is what we have. So in this upper part, you can stitch it, still run a stitch on it if you wish, or you can leave it if you don't want to run a stitch on it. Whichever one you want is okay. So I'm going to give it a very good press, and I'm going to sew my button to it and make my buttonhole. So I was done sewing my buttons and making my buttonholes as well, and I went on to give it a very good press. Now this is our cute button shirt, unisex button shirt, and as you can see, it's looking so cute and beautiful. Thank you so much, Porsche family. I really appreciate what you do. Please don't forget to give me a thumbs up and I hope to see you some other time when I bring another beautiful tutorial your will. Until then, stay safe and be blessed. Thank you so much. Bye.